I'm Kelly Springer. I wanted to share with you a couple passages from my memoir that I just released in September. My memoir is entitled Relentless, A Journey of Forgiveness. And it is in it that I chronicle my many years of recovery from the abuses that I endured as a child. I share quite candidly my path of healing that eventually led to forgiveness for myself and to my abusers. So I'm going to pick two vignettes I wrote in the style of vignettes. I'm going to read two vignettes for you. The first one is entitled, Proof of Evidence Lies Within. There were troublesome secrets stowed away inside me, but it wasn't until I became a teenager that I was able to occasionally peek inside those boxes, ever cautious lest their contents spring from the darkness that had imprisoned them for so long. With age, I was finally able to put into words what was before indescribable. I had been sexually abused. I had no date to stamp on my life's timeline, but I felt as though I was about 4 years old. Like most victims of early childhood abuse, I didn't have a direct link to the entire memory. That is, I couldn't say that the abuse was a clear and distinctly defined event, but was instead a collage of sensations and flashes of images. Thus, the term flashback, as the flashes took me back to this. In my mind's eye, a patch of black pubic hair stares me in the face, and my body seems to record what my mind cannot comprehend. The corners of my lips are stretched beyond their limits, feeling as though they are going to split, while something was forced between them that should have had no place in my child-sized mouth. It hurts. I taste the salt from my tears as they trickle into my mouth. I feel a hand wrap behind my head and forcibly move it back and forth. I gag as that something hits the reflex in the back of my throat. I feel the bullseye in the back of my throat, where a warm, foreign substance squirts explosively into it. Above all else, I am overwhelmingly confused and panicked. I don't know what this is or what is expected of me. I sense he's mad because I don't know what I'm supposed to do and because I cry. This isn't in my field of comprehension. I have no words for it. I feel violated and scared. I don't like it, whatever it is called. In another flashback, I feel wet whiskers scraping the inside of my thighs. It feels soggy and revolting to me. I don't like the mess. My legs kick and scramble in a vain attempt to break free, but my body proves to be weak and powerless against him. And it is in that moment that I began the hate-filled relationship with the flesh that housed me. It had let me down when I needed it most. I feel strong hands grab me by my hips and pull me back, holding me in place. Peering through the bottom of my eyes, I see the black hair on the tops of his hands, and I feel its coarseness as I push against those hands in another desperately futile measure to make my escape. Lastly, embedded in my memory, is the pain on my pubic bone as something rigid moves and presses against it, and always the panic, just trying to get away, get away. It feels as though I am fighting for my very life. While my brain blocked the image of the perpetrator's face, I knew who he was. I had the sense that because I was so young, he didn't think I would remember, that this was his security. I also believed that because he never actually penetrated me vaginally, he convinced himself that he didn't sexually abuse me, a lie he told himself and believes to this day. The next passage I'm going to read is called Humpty Dumpty, and it's regarding a flute teacher that molested me. Humpty Dumpty. A few years before, I had begun taking flute lessons with Saxy, so named because he played the saxophone. I hated speaking the name because it was too close to sexy, which he was not, and because it only seemed to shine a beacon on the events occurring behind his closed office door. I had my lessons with him at a music store not far from where we lived. Although the lesson room could have easily held 10 or more of the sturdy black music stands, he and I shared just one. Our metal chairs sat side by side, our knees within inches of each other. I found him to be physically repulsive. His rotund belly strained against the polyester pants that he hiked up to a perceived waist level. His fingers were fat, hairy sausage links primed to explode. Sickened, I would stare at the white hairs that protruded out of his nostrils. Playing an instrument was akin to an aerobic workout for him, his breathing loud and labored as the air forced its way in and out of his nostrils. His eyes peered at me like large watery saucers behind the lenses of his glasses, giving him an air of innocence that was incongruous to his actions. I can't recall exactly when it all began, the tickling, but it was in relation to my budding body. He would start at my knee with a little squeeze and slowly work his way to the top of my thigh, my panic mounting the higher he climbed. In a honeyed and playful tone, his head held in an innocent tilt and lips pursed, he would ask me to kiss his stubble-ridden cheeks, as though the sweetness of his voice negated his sinister intent. I would try to protest, but he would become livid with me, his face turning a crimson red. My quiet tears only angered him all the more. If I didn't cooperate, he would start spewing about how terribly I was playing the flute, spittle flying from his mouth, and at the end of those lessons he insisted to my parents that I needed to practice more. I was confused because I did indeed practice and knew my parents had heard me. In an effort to manage the situation, I would practice even harder, but the charade always continued. But it seemed that Saxy was in my bedroom, too. I had a Humpty Dumpty light in my bedroom, which would leave me vulnerable because its egg-shaped, big eyes and the high rise of Humpty's red pants reminded me of Saxy. It felt as if he was in my bedroom watching me. I would lie awake many hours a night with my heart racing, the similarity to Saxy creating hysteria in me. I was tortured over whether I should turn the light off or leave it on. If I left it on, it felt as if he could see more readily as I lay exposed to his lewd stare. Turning off the light left me vulnerable as well because now I couldn't see him, and the darkness seemed to work in his favor. Leaving the light on usually won out because at the very least I wanted to have the advantage of seeing and preparing for an attack. My solution was to turn the light away so that he didn't face me as I checked the light throughout the night to be sure that the plastic wasn't getting too hot. Fire safety became a concern to add to the mix. The dread of anticipating his advances before I would enter his room for my weekly lessons skyrocketed off the charts. Every week I had a private appointment to be molested. I simply didn't know how to make it stop, his advances only becoming more frequent and insistent the older I got. Fast forward to my emotional breaking point sometime in my middle school years. I finally told my parents about what was going on during my lessons. This proved to be a grave mistake, as you will see.